Guys, Dave Pinson here, Philippine Bible Ministry. So there's a great old movie that, well, let me just say, it's called the Dead Poet Society, right? I often wanted to have a men's group or a Bible study group. I say men's group because that's where I started in ministry, kind of. But I always wanted to have a group called, well, a couple of things, but one of them was the Dead Preachers Society. Yeah. So the movie was excellent in the way before I was a Christian. I think now some of the themes of the film, I might find not as uplifting as I used to because now I have different beliefs about certain kinds of sin. However, the overall our arching idea, carpe diem, seize the day. My captain, they stand up on the tables, and say, let's go. In other words, break free of the chains that are around you and stand up and seize the day, you know, reading the great poets, opening your mind to expand yourself and be free and be open, you know, like that. That's sort of the idea of the Dead Poets Society because the great poets are dead, right? And for me, I'm always telling you the great preachers, the great pastors are dead. Why do I say this? First of all, because um, what's the word? They can't disappoint me because they're already dead. That was it. Who was his name? The Indian guy, Ravi Zachariah. Is that Ravi Zachariah? Something like that. Look it up. I think that's his name. Great Indian from India. Great pastor, preacher, great ministry, very smart guy. Amazing stories about conversions in India. Turns out at the end of his life that he was having inappropriate texting and pictures of young girls while he was in the ministry at the end, when he got a little older. Taints him, right? Taints him. So how do these things do taint people, right? Like, and it's hard, like, I don't know. I also have more grace for the dead guys, the stuff I don't agree with them on. Francis Fenelon, the guy I was talking about, was a strong Catholic. Some of the things he just talks about, I don't. Maybe 10% of what he talks about, I just put over here. My favorite all time preacher, Leonard Ravenhill. Some of the stuff he talks about, um, some of the stuff he talks about a certain church, which I will not name today, um, a certain section of Christianity, and also an end times type thing. Some of the stuff he talks about, but I just put it over here, right? What's his name? Paul Washer. Paul Washer was a disciple of, or you want to say, yeah, I want to use that word maybe, a follower of Leonard Ravenhill. He loved Leonard Ravenhill. He was very close to him. He would bring him in. Leonard would bring him in and teach him and try to mentor him. And he loved him. And boy, some of his early stuff, Paul Washer. He's got one sermon where he stands up at a youth conference and he just slams everybody there. You guys are weak. The kind of stuff that I'm always talking about, right? The church is weak. They're not doing what God told them to. And I'm like, I love Paul Washer. And then one day I see this man, Paul Washer. He was still alive today, so he's not one of the dead preachers society. But I see him one day and he's just thrashing Charles Finney, right? He's thrashing Charles Finney, and I'm thinking, well, Leonard, and he also is against Leonard Ravenhill a little bit because of some of his beliefs about free will, and so he got caught up in his like the thing I'm always telling you guys to beware of, right? He got caught up in it because of his Reformed theology, because of his Calvinism. He got caught up in it, and in my mind, no evangel, and he was a great mission. Paul Washer was a great missionary. He loved the Lord. He does, and that, so he still does. And all that stuff that he said is still good, but I have a hard time. I don't watch him anymore because it tainted my heart against him in a way. I hate to say that it prejudiced me against him because he turns against this man because of free will, which to me is a secondary issue to begin with, and also no evangelist alive has the right to criticize Finney's evangelism. Because the thing about that, I've talked about this before, all the tens of thousands of people that were saved in the revival of his era, they went back and did some study research and found out that 90% of those people were still, 10 years later, were still walking in the Lord. which I don't think you can say that for most evangelicals. As a matter of fact, even though the Welsh revival, 20 years later, most of those people and their families have fallen away. It's dead again. So yeah, that's why I like the dead guys because, and also there's a strength to it. Now I have a friend of mine who says, "Well, that was for yesterday, and this is today, and things are different today." Yeah, things are different today. Things are weak today. Things are soft today. Things are, you know, people are into this soft kind of Christianity. So I'll just close with this. I like the dead guys. I like the old guys because they're so strong in their life. David Brainerd. Just read the David Brainerd diary. It's too much for me. I'm like, this man's insane. How could he do this? But then you look at how he influenced the world and how many people like William Carey, how many people like C.T. Studd, were moved by his life to give their life for Christ in a very powerful way, right? So, what was that? Hang on. There goes the brain matter. Just a second. I'll be right back. So I'll just close with this idea about the Dead Preacher Society, the old guys. I can send you a list if you want. Just ask me a question. And I'm going to close with Francois Fenelon. He says, I'll just paraphrase because I can't get it up in time here. He says, "You want to die, but you want to die without pain. You want to be tried, but only while looking on with conscious superiority at the trial. You must give all, nothing. If you cannot give it, give." It's okay. So this is French, so I have to look at the translation. You cannot give and hold. You must give all or nothing. So what is he saying? And this is why I love the old guys. Yeah, you want to suffer, but only if you can watch it and like have victory while you're doing it. You don't want to actually suffer. You know, you don't. In other words, you want a comfortable Christian life. You don't really want to follow God. Jesus said, unless you're willing to turn against the world and turn to me, then you're not mine, right? So that's it. I'll close with that. Why do I like the dead guys? Because the ones I read and the ones I follow did that. And so why would I read? I don't know of anybody today doing that. I mean, I know there are people today. Please send me some. If you have some authors or somebody you know that's doing this, hey, Dave Benson, there's this guy over here. Look what he did. He gave it all. But I think it's rare today. So anyway, the Dead Preacher Society is a good thing. And, oh, one more thing. Here's what it was. So in the movie The Dead Poets Society, they would say, "Carpe diem, seize the day." But for us as believers, surrender the day. We're not seizing the day. We're strong. We're smart. We're gonna open our minds and the opposite. This is like, oh yeah, let's turn that around. That's the worldly way. That's not a bad way. I mean, my mind, my heart is open. I'm intelligent. I'm gonna use all the things that God's given me. But then here's the other side of that. Surrender the day. Surrender the day. Whatever you want, Lord. Surrender the day to the Lord. I can only do things when I'm humbled, when I'm obedient, when I'm fallen, not when I'm great in my mind. And my mind, I'm so what's the word? Prideful. Prideful. I'm so prideful. Pride is the essence of sin. So surrender the day, guys. Instead of look that up in Latin, because carpe diem is Latin. So look it up. What does it mean? Surrender the day. Only you, Lord. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Doesn't mean seize the day. A lot of Christians think that's what it means. They put on that shirt and they go to the Gold Gym and they work out, and they're like, I can do all things. Or the athletes will say, because I can do all things. It doesn't mean that. In context of Paul's life and all the other stuff he wrote, it means I can go through all the horrible things in life because Christ strengthens me. He gives me strength. He lifts me up. God bless you guys. Ta-ta for now.